for another live stream. Oops. Just grab a drink before we begin. All right. So, I think I'm almost there, and then I can start building the levels. Can I build the next? Am I clear for the next level? Let's clear and then build the next level. I think that's what I'll do. I'll just clear up to the next level, and then we'll build what the plan is for the next level. Get rid of these over here. 1 second. I just need some form of brainless entertainment in the background to keep me going, because the house is very empty at the moment. So let's go air crash investigations in the background. Hopefully that won't get copyright struck. I'll just put that off. Come on, play. There we go.
Is that one of his flight displays has gone blank. The EFI, or Electronic Flight Instrument System, displays vital flight and performance data.
Okay, I got it back.
Okay.
Now it's back. Hey, press the button.
There we go.
If there's some problem with
All right, so let's keep going. I'm going to wipe this area clear.
back to your own side of the aircraft.
All right. Your controls. My controls.
The captain hands control back to First Officer Asker.
Oh, I wouldn't hand control back to the first officer. He doesn't look too confident to me. He looks like he doesn't know what he's doing.
The crew configures the plane for landing.
It's easy to say that when you're watching a drama.
Every time you approach an airport, it could be different configurations.
Runways
or landing.
All right, here we go.
It's good to get ahead of the airplane and prepare for the approach as soon as you possibly can. That way you can get a picture of what's going on as you enter the terminal area.
Let's get rid of all this. It's coming together.
As Flight 3591 gets closer to the airport, the pilots prepare for their final approach.
3591 in about another 18 miles. We'll cut you due north for main flight.
Okay.
Clear on the outside of this one, so there should be no
Hello to all those people who watch later on.
The controller informs the crew that he'll direct the plane north after they divert.
Hope you're having a good day. I went and saw a play on the weekend. Steel Magnolias. Wonderful performance. Very sad, but also funny at the same time. If you ever get the chance to see that play, and if you're in Australia, Lisa McCune and the others, they're just amazing.
3591 struggle to recover the plane.
I got a full house of animals at the moment, though. I've abandoned my plan. Sorry, I'm just going to do this. Yep, there's one of my dogs barking away. Chief.
Marshy waters of Trinity Bay. 40
It's my son's dog. Chief. Chief. What's wrong? What's wrong, sweetie? Come here. Come here. What's the matter, fluffy dog? What's the matter, my fluffy dog? Hey? What do you do, Bubba? Oh, that's a fluffy multi Shih Tzu. Very fluffy multi Shih Tzu.
We've had deep water, we've had forests and jungles and wide areas, but this combines pretty much everything.
Okay, look, this is crazy. What am I doing? What am I doing? What was I thinking?
While the painstaking recovery effort continues, NTSB investigator Bill English sets up an
What
operation
was I thinking? with this crazy design. I think I've outdone myself today. I think I've too much. Kizzy, you can't help the dog outside, sweetie. That's just an annoying neighbour's dog. Okay? That dog is always barking. Kizzy, it's not a drama, it's just a dog that's constantly barking, okay? There's nothing dangerous outside. You don't have to protect me. Alright. Oops. Oops. All right.
While the team waits for the recorders to be recovered, David Lawrence speaks to the controller who directed the plane towards Houston.
I wanted to hear the pilots and the last conversations they had and the last control instructions the air traffic had with the accident flight.
Getting there.
Looks like it could get bumpy in there. Did the crew mention lightning or if they were struggling?
There was a cold front that was moving through the Houston vicinity, but nothing that would knock a 767 out of the sky that morning.
What about distress signals? Any communications of that sort?
Nothing. See here? I gave them the weather info. They said okay, and I didn't hear from them after that.
There was no Mayday call. Their communications were standard and normal with air traffic.
No.
So there was no indication
Gizzy.
there was a problem with the airplane.
Kizzy,
Here's the final few minutes of the plane's track.
don't join in the neighborhood dramas with the other dogs. No gossiping, okay?
Drop quickly.
Investigators don't know why Atlas 3591 crashed, but its sudden dive
Gizzy.
Well, thanks. I'll be in touch if I have more questions.
The airplane, as it was descending towards 6,000 feet, suddenly began a very steep dive straight down to the ground.
I've made a lot of progress digging this massive hole.
with weather eliminated as a reason for the crash.
Maybe it's a flight control problem.
Investigators turn to the wreckage for clues.
See if we can find the jacks.
It's the first officer's fault. He looked dodgy. He looked really nervous. When the actor plays nervous, you know it's that character's fault.
It moves the stabilizer up and down to adjust the pitch of the aircraft.
Looks like most of it is here.
Do-do-do-do-do.
From the impact, there was no evidence of excessive wear, no stripped threads.
11.25 inches.
All right.
The position of the
Almost got it.
on the jack screw was consistent with pilot-type control inputs, not some kind of runaway.
Oh, I've got the other side too. Oh.
Let's take a look at the plane's descent profile.
With a runaway stabilizer ruled out, investigators return to the plane's descent.
Well, it's a normal descent until here.
But the sudden loss of altitude have been deliberate.
The plane's track has the chilling hallmarks of a deliberate act.
It's possible.
In the past, pilots have purposely crashed
looks into the mental health of Atlas 3591's crew. They receive news from the recovery effort.
They found the cockpit voice recorder.
The cockpit voice recorder is sent to Washington, D.C. for processing.
Okay, it's getting dark, so I'm going to go get some rest.
No issues here.
He passes medical checks. No history of depression or any other major personal issues.
Get a drink.
What about the first officer?
He passed all his medical tests.
There was nothing in the medical records of these pilots that
All right.
was a red flag or an intentional act type scenario.
Ah, good timing. Thanks.
The cockpit voice recording should shed light on why Atlas 3591 was in a high-speed descent.
They were discussing target altitude. Pretty standard stuff.
Won't detect any stress in their voices. None.
Fast forward a little bit.
Giant 3591.
How do you want to get around this stuff? Cut to the east of it? Turn up on the other side?
1 second, I'll get right back with you.
As investigators listen to the crew and air traffic control discuss the flight path around the weather, they hear something interesting.
Okay, I got it back. Now it's back. Hey, press the button, fixes everything.
Some of the instrument displays must have got blank.
And they got them back right away. We heard that the first officer was having a little bit of an issue with his electronic flight instrument switch, but cycled that switch and basically cleared the problem.
Real clear on the other side of this weather, so there should be no problem getting to the airport. Okay.
Giant 3591.
He programmed the wrong thing in, didn't he? And that's why the display was blank.
Did the plane suddenly lose speed and stall?
We know from this read field that it hit the ground at a high speed.
So which one is it?
After searching muddy waters for more than a week, the flight data recorder of Atlas Airlines 3591 is finally located and sent to Washington, D.C. for processing.
Everything was going smoothly until the first officer says, "Where's my speed?" 3 seconds later, he reports, "We're stalled."
15 seconds later, they crashed.
While investigators await flight data,
Giant 3591.
they review the intriguing lead from the plane's cockpit voice recording.
My speed? It was pretty clear that the first officer was very agitated, very confused. We're stalling. We could hear him. We're stalling. We're stalling. Stall. What's going on? Okay. Let's assume we stalled. How come?
Well, the plane was carrying nearly 26,000 pounds of cargo.
Well, if any cargo came loose, it could have thrown off the plane's center of gravity.
If freight breaks loose or moves in the cargo hold during flight, the center of gravity will shift, putting the plane off balance into an unrecoverable stall. In 2013, a Boeing 747 air freighter crashed in Afghanistan after poorly secured cargo rolled into the rear flight control systems during takeoff.
Nope.
We went to Miami to look at the loading process because, cargo shift was another potential issue.
Everything I've seen looks good. Can I have a look at the paperwork?
We looked for potential vulnerabilities where either the cargo load may have not been properly secured, or perhaps too much cargo may have been loaded or in the wrong position. So we looked at that pretty thoroughly.
Looks like every pallet was well secured. And locking and loading was double checked. Center of gravity and specs look impeccable.
Look at this.
With shifting cargo eliminated as the cause of the stall, the team turns to a new piece of evidence for answers.
This video comes from a county jail surveillance camera.
The video captures the final seconds of Atlas 3591's flight.
The first time I saw the security video, it was really disturbing because 767s just don't fly straight down like that. It really
Well, that one did.
history of what happened to that airplane.
Flying very fast, nose down. And it's not falling flat like a pancake.
At that speed, it can't be stalling.
Maybe the crew is trying to recover from one.
The normal response to a stall in aircraft is to lower the nose, lower the angle of attack, and increase power.
The first officer says we're stalling
Gizzy?
15 seconds before impact.
Without the flight data in hand, investigators search for additional evidence that Flight 3591 stalled before it crashed.
How long is the plane speeding nose down?
5 seconds.
We don't know what they're doing.
From the plane's configuration, investigators determined that Atlas 3591 could have been trying to recover from the stall.
Maybe they just ran out of time trying to save it.
Captain! What's going on? By the time they came out of the clouds and realized what was happening, it was too late, and the aircraft impacted the swamp.
Let's start with the beginning of the descent, about 14 minutes before impact.
The flight data from Atlas Air 3591 is ready for analysis.
The plane is beginning to descend here, about 110 miles from the airplane.
The pitch is normal. The plane speed is consistent at 275 knots.
Everything looks fine to this point. Let's just move ahead to the final minute of flight. Whoa. Okay. Something goes wrong right here.
That's 32 seconds before the crash.
Where exactly did the first officer say the plane is stalling?
First officer says we're stalling 15 seconds before impact. Hang on. There's no drop in airspeed. In fact, it's the opposite.
270 knots. That's about double the 767 stall speed.
See this? That's the angle of attack. It's 15 degrees
Gizzy?
down.
Nose down. There's no stick shaker alerts.
The Boeing 767 has very good stall characteristics. If you're approaching a stall, it's imminent. The stick shaker will come
Gizzy?
from one, and there's a control column nudger that will actually push the nose forward to remind you that you're approaching a stall. Stalls typically happen
You can only sleep at night or during thunderstorms.
Well, it's getting pretty dark out there.
Which this airplane was nowhere close to.
High speed? Plane never stalled.
Oops. I just destroyed the library.
We're stalling.
When the first officer yelled out that the airplane was stalling,
Stall.
the airplane was nowhere near stalling.
Atlas 3591 crashed for another reason.
Check this out. Plane wouldn't even go around.
Go around mode is an autopilot setting that increases thrust to about 80% of maximum power and pitches the nose up 4 degrees so the plane can go around.
You can only sleep at night or during thunderstorms.
Go around
You telling me that's not night?
one way, and you need to go around and try another approach, or it's directed by air traffic control.
The crew doesn't mention a go around. Ever. So if the crew
There we
never
go.
mentions a go around, did they initiate it by accident?
All right.
Well, there's only one way to find out.
Speed brake, go around switch.
Got it.
Using Atlas 3591's flight data, investigators recreate the pilot's actions up to the moment when the go-around mode is activated.
Plane is descending normally. Autopilot and auto throttle are on. Pitch is nose up at 1 degree.
There's TNT in there?
To demonstrate a normal descent.
Why is there TNT hidden away in there?
First officer in the right seat.
Oh, no, 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 no.
Next, the speed brakes are deployed to slow the plane.
You.
Check. Plane is going.
It's just a train, darling.
The speed brake in the 767, there is no tone necessarily to let you know that it's out. Most airlines have the pilot flying keep their hand on the speed brake lever as a tactile reminder that the speed brake lever is out.
Hang on. Look at your wrist.
We noticed how close the first officer's wrist is to that go-around switch when they're manipulating the speed brake handle per their procedures.
Close. But I'm not hitting the go around switch.
All right.
We then took a
Fix
look at
that.
the timing of when the first officer was manipulating the speed brake handle.
They hit turbulence. Give it a bit of a bounce. Turbulence.
To the surprise of the investigator, the pilot can inadvertently hit and activate the go-around mode.
You must have felt it, hit it.
No. I didn't feel a thing. I hit it with my watch.
There it is. That explains it.
There were social media photos that indicated that he commonly wore a large silver wristwatch on his left wrist. It was sort of big and chunky and metal, and he was likely wearing it during the accident flight.
Especially on heading north.
As Flight 3591 gets closer to the airport, the pilots prepare for their final approach.
We'll cut you due north for A-Flight.
Sounds good. 3591.
His wrist would have been within an inch or so of these rocker switches. And if he was wearing this chunky metal watch, that would have closed the distance further. So if he contacted the switch with that wristwatch, it's quite possible he never even felt the contact.
Looks like the crew inadvertently put the plane into go around mode.
pilots were doing when they failed to notice the plane was in go-around mode.
The plane's engines put out more power. The plane pitches up. But look at that. It pitches up for a bit. And then suddenly down.
The only way for the plane to pitch down during a go-around would be for the pilot to override the automation. But the question is, why would a pilot do that?
If he didn't realize that the go-around mode was activated, he might have felt that the plane was pitching too high.
Investigators make a key discovery. Flying through thick cloud with no visual reference of the horizon, First Officer Asker experienced spatial disorientation.
Once the go-around mode was activated, the thrust was accelerating the airplane and it began pitching up. And of course they were in the clouds, so he couldn't see the horizon. That effect gave the first officer the feeling that he was pitching up when he really wasn't pitching up as much as his inner ear was thinking.
Well, that might explain why he reacted by pushing the plane nose down.
So what's the captain doing? Now, wouldn't he be looking at the instruments?
He's on the radio with air traffic control.
3591 in about another 18 miles. We'll cut you due north for a main leg.
Sounds good, John 3591.
Okay, so when he was finished talking to ATC, surely he would look at the instruments.
Investigators can't tell when the captain was looking at the time, but the FDR data can reveal what he was doing.
Let's see what the elevators tell us.
The elevator data reflects how the pilots handled their control columns to alter the pitch of the aircraft.
They're working in tandem until the go-around mode is activated. Okay, look. Only the captains starts moving up.
The captain must have noticed that the plane was nose down and pulled up.
By the time he realized what was going on, their fate was sealed.
Investigators discover the captain tried to pull the plane out of the dive, while First Officer Asker continued to push forward.
Captain, what's going on?
The airplane was pointed straight down, and at the last minute, they both were pulling back trying to save the airplane, but it was too low and too late.
During training, it is drilled into the pilots to rely on their instruments and not on their senses.
So why didn't he do what he was trained to do?
I would have mercy upon myself.
We got the training records from Atlas. Check this out.
The team looks into the First Officer's training at Atlas Airlines to understand why he didn't rely on his instruments as he was trained to do.
In 2017, the first officer had difficulty completing normal procedures, thinking ahead, even troubleshooting.
Looks like he failed the first check ride of the 767 too.
The first officer failed his initial oral examination for the 767 type rating. He then had difficulty during the flight training portion, and he had to receive some remedial training before he passed the check ride. The remedial training instructor, first officer
Gizzy! Gizzy, come here! Come here, Gizzy! Gizmo!
First Officer Asker's dismal training record with Atlas, the team digs further
Come here.
into his career.
Come here, sweetie.
Now we need to go back and look at
Thanks for protecting me, but...
How far back did he go?
It's everything from the start of his piloting career in 2008.
Canadian, Transstates, Mason. How many airlines?
6 other airlines over
looked back into the history of this pilot, we started to find some interesting gaps and some interesting information in
Ah.
his training. Apparently,
Wait. Second.
This is unbelievable. Commute Air, incomplete training.
It's the same story there, Wisconsin. He resigns from both.
Investigators looking into the crash of Atlas 3591 discover a troubling work record for First Officer Asker.
Both those airlines, he actually failed to complete the first officer training.
2014,
What just happened?
he fails the oral exam, line check, and the check.
Why did someone just explode?
In 2017 at Mesa Airlines, Aska trains to upgrade
What
to
just-
the rank of captain.
It's weird.
Approaching minimums. Approaching decision height. Minimums.
What? That's not right.
This first officer really struggled to pass training to upgrade to captain.
What the hell? What's wrong with this plane?
His trainer said that he had low situational awareness. He would get flustered, would get frantic when unusual situations would come about. He would just press random buttons.
The upgrade is unsuccessful.
Kizzy.
This is one of the worst cases I've seen in my career.
How does such a lousy pilot get a job flying for one of the biggest cargo delivery services on the planet?
He had multiple episodes of poor performance, failed check rides, serious training deficiencies. So we went to Atlas Air and asked, what did you guys know?
Finally, a CV and his Atlas Air job application.
Why would Atlas Airlines hire a pilot with such poor skills?
Commute Air and Air Wisconsin aren't even on his CV.
He said the gaps were because he was in college. There's nothing on this application about his unsuccessful upgrade attempt at Mesa or the failed line check at Trans-States.
Once we took a look at the first
Just need to check
officer's,
something here.
Resume and his application at
Yep,
Atlas
okay,
Air,
cool.
we found out that he had failed to disclose his history at other airlines.
Pilots are expected to provide their training background and job history the same way that non-pilots are expected to provide all of their employment history. However, Aska did not include particularly troublesome training background, and this misled future employers.
He didn't tell them about most of this, and Atlas never dug it up.
how did this pilot manage to continue slipping through these cracks, retrain, move on, slip through another crack, until eventually end up in the front end of a 767 and this accident?
Minor slip-up turns to major disaster in 32 seconds.
The airplane enters the clouds. It experiences turbulence. The first officer's left wrist bumps the go-around switches. The airplane transitions to go-around mode.
From the point that the go-around mode was activated, you had the first officer feeling the spatial disorientation, not watching his instrumentations, reacting inappropriately.
Where's my speed? Counteracting the autopilot, he pushes forward on the control column. The airplane begins to enter a dive and accelerate further. My speed? Stalling. Stall.
He's way behind the airplane. His situational awareness is very, very low. He perceives a stall when in fact they're in a steep dive.
to not happen again. And for me, this accident was so preventable.
In their final report, the NTSB issues a safety alert about the close proximity of the speed brake lever to the left go-around switch, which could inadvertently cause an activation. The board also recommends the implementation of a pilot's records database, which allows airlines to access an applicant's employment and training records, something the FAA had been rolling out at the time of the accident.
The NTSB has advocated for the implementation.
An Airbus heading from Paris to Cairo disappears over the Mediterranean.
The plane with some 58 passengers on board has gone missing. It is Egypt Air Flight 804.
Radar data provides the first clue.
And then they started spiraling.
What is going on in this cockpit?
The cockpit voice recorder, found deep on the sea floor, reveals a horrifying detail.
There's a pilot! It has to be one of the worst things that could happen.
A shocked world demands answers.
We owe it to the traveling public. We owe it to the victims' families.
The accident investigation stalls. Then, 6 years later, an Italian journalist reports an astonishing new theory.
The people need to know the truth.
A late-night flight to Cairo cruises 37,000 feet over Greece.
Radar check. Looks clear.
Thank you, Gov. I like the way that sounds.
Mohammed Shoker is in command of tonight's flight. With more than 6,000 hours of flying time, he's just been promoted to captain.
The initial upgrade to captain is a real pinnacle event for an aviator. It's something you work years to attain.
When's ARA's forecast? No deviation.
First Officer Mohammed Assem has 2,700 hours of flying time. He too is an ambitious pilot.
Being a pilot in Egypt is one of the most prestigious jobs in Northern Africa.
Hi there. Could I have a cup of coffee up here?
Make that two, please.
Make that two, please.
This was routine flight. This was a normal crew. Both pilots were very well trained and experienced.
The pilots fly for Egypt Air, a state-owned airline and the flagship carrier of Egypt.
Egypt Air is one of the
It's
best
weird.
airlines in Africa.
Ah, hang on.
And
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Yeah.
Flight 804 is 2.5 hours into its
1, 2,
journey
3, 4, 5, 6.
The pilots are flying an Airbus A320.
2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
A320 is one of the more modern fly-by-wire computer-enhanced airplanes. It's an extremely reliable veteran workhorse.
So why is it outside on those ones,
On board the
but
plane
inside
tonight,
on this
only
one?
6 international passengers.
1,
Egyptian,
2, 3,
French,
4,
British,
5,
and
6,
Canadian.
7, 8. Aha!
The 5-person cabin crew has a quieter night than usual. The plane is only half full.
That was an error.
Hello, hello. Egypt Air Flight 804. Flight level 370.
Captain Shoker updates controllers on the flight's progress.
Egypt Air 804.
There we go.
Radar contact. Thank you very much. Egypt
Fire
Air
launch.
804 maintain flight level 370 and we're ready.
Greek controllers oversee the airspace Flight 804 is flying through.
That's good at heading. Keep Paris to point. How's the coffee?
Strong, just what I need.
One of the challenges when you're flying what they call the backside of the clock, where the technical term is a circadian lobe, and this is when body normally would be asleep, but you're having to press it because you're on duty.
Egypt Air 804, contact Cairo Center now on 125.300.
As Flight 804 leaves Greek airspace, the controller hands it off to Egyptian control. But the pilots don't acknowledge the instruction.
The fact that they missed the call, understandable. Perhaps they were in conversation and just missed it.
Egypt Air 804, contact Cairo Center 125.300.
After a second call, the controller waits for confirmation from the pilots. There's still no reply.
After the second or third call, that becomes unusual. Something's wrong here.
Then Flight 804 disappears from radar.
Cairo, have you made contact with 804?
No, and we don't have them on radar either.
As the minutes tick by, there's no word from the pilots. Flight 804 doesn't arrive in Cairo.
Normally, crashes occur during takeoff, during landing, somebody runs into a mountain. But at 37,000 feet, not a lot of things that can go wrong. So in that particular case, that was a bit of a mystery.
As day breaks, Egyptian, French, and Greek ships and aircraft search for the plane north of the Egyptian coast.
So here is the breaking news tonight. A plane that reportedly has some 58 passengers on board has gone missing. A plane with some 58 passengers on board has gone missing. It is Egypt Air Flight 804. It's en route from Paris to Cairo.
Families gather at Cairo Airport, hoping for news. One day after Flight 804 disappears, search teams find debris from the plane.
Around the same time the aircraft went down in Europe, we faced a lot of terrorist attacks in France, in Belgium, and in other parts. I thought that this could be a terrorist attack.
The question inevitably being asked here in Paris is whether or not the plane was sabotaged.
Any survivors?
None have been found.
An investigation into the crash of Flight 804 is launched. 66 people are feared dead.
And time is running out.
The case falls within the jurisdiction of the Egyptian Civil Aviation Authority Investigation Directorate.
The Bureau will do whatever it can to assist.
Investigators from France's Bureau of Investigation and Analysis for Civil Aviation Safety, the BEA, assist because the A320 is built in Europe and French nationals were on board.
What do we know so far?
Very little, I'm afraid. It was a cruise, and then it was gone.
It's a worldwide news event, and so the pressure's on. And as an investigator, you have to say, no, we're going to do this methodically and properly.
The current and tide could scatter debris hundreds of kilometers from the point of impact.
But satellite images show an oil slick on the water.
If you find an oil slick, there is a high likelihood if the airplane impacted the water in this area. The more you can narrow the search down, the higher the likelihood you'll find the wreckage on the seafloor.
Hopefully the ROVs will find it soon.
The oil slick lies on water 3,000 meters, or nearly 10,000 feet deep, sufficient sophisticated undersea technology and expertise are needed to explore such extreme depths.
Anything?
BEA investigators lead an advanced dive team in the hunt for the wreckage of Flight 804. Their ships are equipped with sonar units capable of detecting the pingers on black boxes.
Underwater searches actually have a good side and a bad side. They kind of slow things down and allow investigators to kind of get their act together a bit. It allows them to accept wreckage gradually rather than at a big pile, and that's a good thing. Other than that, on the bad side, it takes a long time.
Did you pick up on anything unusual?
As the search for the plane continues, the investigation on shore gains pace.
They were passing through Greek airspace. Egypt Air 804 maintained flight level 370 and current heading.
Can the Greek controller who last handled the flight provide investigators with any clues?
In the early days of any investigation, you want to interview the air traffic controller. Did the crew make any ATC communications advising that they had a mechanical problem?
Maintain 370 and current heading. Ikaristopoli.
He spoke to us in Greek. He sounded very relaxed. It was all very routine.
Any emergency calls?
None.
There had been a conversation between the aircraft and the Greek traffic control. Only moments before this event took place, it's completely inexplicable as to why communication would suddenly stop.
Investigators don't know if there was a malfunction or something more sinister, like an act of terrorism.
This should fill in some gaps.
Using radar and satellite data, investigators reconstruct the plane's flight path after contact was lost.
Making a left turn. Now it's making a right turn.
They're dropping altitude fast.
After a sudden left turn, Flight 804 spirals downwards until it hits the sea.
If you have to, you want to get towards an airport, so you would not want to circle on your way down.
Maybe there's problems with the controls.
Maybe. But he'd have time to tell the ATC.
The spiral flown by Egypt Air Flight 804 raises some troubling questions.
A spiral descent is what will eventually happen to an aeroplane if it's completely left alone by the pilots and not controlled by an autopilot.
Did something prevent the pilots from operating the plane's controls? Investigators hang their hopes on the recovery of the black boxes from the wreckage. But what remains of the plane is somewhere 3,000 meters, or nearly 10,000 feet, underwater.
3,000 meters of water is a very, very challenging environment under immense pressure.
A surface vessel uses hydrophones to scan the sea for a specific frequency being transmitted, or ping, by the black boxes.
If the transmitter is not buried in either wreckage or in the seafloor, you can pick it up from a pretty good distance out.
It's a race against time. The pingers on the black boxes only have battery power to transmit for 30 days.
Look. Is that it?
2 weeks into the search, investigators track a frequency that matches the pingers.
That's gotta be it.
The team deploys a remotely operated submarine equipped with cameras and robotic arms to confirm the find. Technicians control the submarine through a tether that extends from the ship.
Okay. It should be right there. Here's the plane.
They find the wreckage, but now must locate the flight recorders.
They're looking for the flight data and cockpit voice recorders. Those are key pieces of evidence. in the investigative process.
Okay, slowly. Slowly. I see it. There.
Using the submarine's robotic arms, the team extracts the black boxes.
These things are gold to an investigator. And to be able to go down that deep and in those cold, frigid, dark waters and pick things out selectively, that's magic.
Here's what they found so far.
In Egypt, investigators study the debris field, mapped from underwater footage analysis.
It looks like a fairly contained area. Doesn't seem like the plane exploded. If it came up
Hey, Mello.
there, the debris would be scattered further apart.
The destruction of the plane likely occurred on impact with the water, not while in the air.
The plane was intact through a 37,000 feet descent. That was a long time. Why didn't the pilots tell the controllers what was going on?
There's a saying in aviation. During an emergency, you need to first aviate, and then you navigate, and lastly, you communicate.
The cockpit voice recorder should help.
Investigators wonder what was happening in the cockpit of Egypt Air Flight 804 in the minutes before it crashed.
There have been a couple of cases where pilots have deliberately done something to cause the aircraft to crash and, to achieve their own suicide by it.
Just 10 months earlier, a pilot on a German Wings Airbus deliberately crashed into the French Alps, killing 150 people.
But this didn't look like one of those. It really looked as if the aircraft was out of control. The question then is, why on earth was it from normal, regular flight suddenly out of control?
We've got data. It's from Egypt Air.
Airbus and Egypt Air provide them with a source of evidence.
What are they saying?
What a bunch of ACARS messages.
A digital data link system called ACARS sends short messages from the aircraft to ground stations via satellite.
The ACARS messages are one thing that the investigators will go look at early because they know the airplane is transmitting. Is there anything unusual in those transmissions?
What's that? 11 messages in total.
Egypt Air gives the investigating team a full list of transmissions from Flight 804's Aircraft Communications Addressing and Reporting System, or ACARS.
It looks like the first 4 messages are minor maintenance messages during engine startup.
But these 7 messages occur within a 3-minute time span. What's that?
The fault messages reveal a crew confronted by a series of warnings 3 hours and 17 minutes into the flight.
Anti-ice the right window.
Starts on the right side of the plane with the right window anti-ice system.
What's going on over there?
I don't see anything.
The second message is from the right side windows too.
The first 2 ACARS messages tell investigators there was a problem with the windshield panels on the right side of the cockpit.
The sensor in the sliding window is primarily to determine the temperature of the window so that the heating elements can maintain the desired temperature.
Check out this third warning. Smoke in the lavatory.
There's smoke in the avionics bay as well. We've got trouble. Something's wrong.
Critical computers are located in the avionics bay.
Smoke in the avionics bay, that can get you in trouble real quick.
Just 2 minutes after the smoke warnings, the pilots discover that their primary flight controls are failing.
We've got an SEC problem.
The SEC computer manages the spoilers and elevators which move up and down to change the plane's pitch and roll.
another piece of evidence that there's something seriously wrong in the avionics bay.
If they are losing flight controls, that could explain the slow spiraling descent.
Let us move to the backup.
The A320 flight control system was designed so that if one system failed, the backup system would still operate.
If one fails totally, the other system will give them enough control to get the aircraft back to base.
There aren't any warnings on the other flight control computers.
The ACARS messages tell investigators Flight 804 was in serious trouble in the final minutes before it crashed, all pointing to one thing.
There's a fire at the front of the plane.
There's nothing that could happen on an airplane that is more chilling and more dangerous than fire on board, because fires can spread very rapidly and they can do tremendous damage to control systems.
After analyzing the ACARS warnings, the investigators grapple with the devastating implications of the discovery.
Maybe they're too busy fighting the fire to call air traffic control.
You must get the fire out quickly. You just cannot allow it to spread.
Now investigators face more difficult questions.
The investigators want to discover exactly where it started. The whole reason for the investigation is to prevent this happening again.
All right, let's have a listen.
Investigators turn to the CBR in the hopes it might reveal more about the fire on board.
Egypt 804 maintain flight level 370 and current heading. Maintain 370 at current heading.
The BEA helped the Egyptians by downloading the data, but then the BEA had to hand the cockpit voice recorder over to the Egyptians.
There's a fire!
The crew's statement of the word fire indicates that they have evidence, hard evidence, that there is a real-time fire that they need to contend with.
Thank you.
After listening to the CBR, the Egyptian investigators report their findings to France's Bureau of Investigation and Analysis, or BEA.
I'm afraid our suspicions have been confirmed. Pilots are on the recording saying there's a fire on board.
Any idea where it started?
Running, where's it coming from? I don't know.
No, there's no indications.
Well, we'll have to find out another way. When are you coming back?
Why was there fire? The crew states the word fire. Why? Where?
7 months into the international investigation aided by the BEA, the Egyptian government suddenly releases a statement to the media.
The Egyptians believed that this was some form of sabotage involving an explosive.
The Egyptian government believes an act of terrorism may have brought down Egypt Air Flight 804. By law, the investigation is handed over to Egypt's state prosecutor.
It's out of my hands. You must understand.
The Egyptian authorities advanced the theory that there was an explosion on board. That is certainly something to be considered, but you provide the evidence for everyone to see.
Your forensic report.
The case is with state investigators now. I'm sorry.
There's too much room for error here. Are you sure it's not a false positive?
The tests are conclusive.
The BEA and Airbus tried their best to say, hey, we're here to help, we're here to help, we're here to help. And they were ignored.
Okay.
To say, well, we have evidence and we're not going to discuss it any further, flies in the face of the International Civil Aviation Organization.
Almost done.
provide proof. They didn't provide any, and that was welcomed with a lot of skepticism from the aviation community.
Are there chemical residue that is consistent with an explosive?
If it had been a bomb, nobody claimed responsibility.
And there you go.
Makes the entire
It is done.
bombing an aircraft pretty damn useless.
Our own forensics are in evil.
Air accident investigators from France's BEA independently look into the terrorism theory. They test materials from the crash for explosive residue.
Negative. For traces of explosive.
They can't find any evidence to support the bomb theory.
The information they had denied what the Egyptians were suddenly claiming.
There's got to be a connection here.
Unconvinced by the Egyptian government's bomb theory, BEA investigators hunt for the source of a fire they're certain ripped through Flight 804.
There's a fire!
The right window heating element is first.
They look for a pattern to the ACARS messages to explain the cause of the fire.
There has to be something in common. And that's the big question. What could trigger this?
Then smoke in the lavatory and avionics bay. It's moving from front to back.
The order matters in that you may be able to say the fire is increasing. It's also propagating. It's moving. So it's affecting different parts of the airplane.
The last warning the ACAR system processed had to do with a flight control problem. That was a very serious one. Everything seemed to kind of center in on the avionics compartment.
The avionics bay is packed with wiring. Maybe some wires arced and ignited.
The A320, like a lot of modern jets, is a fly-by-wire airplane. So the computers actually control the flight control position. If you were to lose all electricity in the airplane, maintaining control becomes very, very challenging.
My belief was that this was an avionics bay fire. The smoke penetrated probably via the floor or the floor panels, penetrated into the forward lavatory.
Did faulty wiring in the avionics bay ignite a fire on board?
Sounds like Swiss Air 111.
On Swiss Air 111, arcing in the wiring of the plane's entertainment system was identified as the source of a tragic onboard fire that killed 229 people.
As soon as I heard about the ACARS messages about smoke in the avionics bay, I immediately thought of Swiss Air 111.
Did an electrical fire start in the avionics bay on board Egypt Air Flight 804?
A fire can happen on board any aircraft. They can be caused by a variety of things, but very often they're triggered by some kind of an electrical fault.
If there was faulty wiring on an A320 that crashed into the Mediterranean, it would have grave repercussions.
If that were the cause, you can inspect the rest of the fleet and make sure that the same chafing is not happening in the rest of the fleet.
But without the assistance of the Egyptian Civil Aviation Ministry, there's no way to determine the cause of the fire. The BEA's investigation stalls due to lack of evidence.
It's really vital to have a final report because that's the only way to improve aviation, to avoid making the same mistakes.
After the crash of Flight 804, there's still no official report nor conclusion to Egypt's criminal investigation.
Pronto.
In March of 2022, trusted source who offers another explanation for the crash of Egypt Air Flight 804.
We met and the person handed me the document.
Berberi learns from the confidential source details of an investigation launched by the French judiciary, staffed with a team of technical experts appointed to analyze the available evidence.
The French judiciary involved 5 experts in aviation and in accidents, probably some of the best in the world, and handed them all the documents, all the data they had about that flight.
The aim is to determine if the accident constituted involuntary manslaughter.
The French government started the investigation in Paris because there were French citizens among the victims of that flight.
Berberi confirms the report with the French judicial investigation, who had secured copies of the cockpit voice recorder.
All we were told is the pilots reported the fire but didn't mention its location. Let's see what they say.
The investigators began their analysis by looking for answers to the main question: how did a fire start on Flight 804?
We had a lot of questions, a lot of theories, but no answers.
The word fire that is on the voice recorder indicates this was something other than an explosion.
Tired?
I'm okay.
Stop. Do you hear that? Play it again.
Tired? I'm okay.
Looks like there's something on channel 3. Can you isolate it? Visually?
The cockpit voice recorders not only can record voices, but they record noises in the cockpit, which can tell us another story too.
Investigators isolate the channels. On one of the channels, they hear something unusual.
What's that sound?
They worked on this audio, changing the sound spectrum to reduce the low frequencies. This could allow them to hear clearly something coming from one of the microphones of the pilots.
It's like whispering sound. Can you pull the Library of Sounds?
Investigators compare the sound to similar sounds in a database of cockpit noises.
Not this one. Not that one either. Play that one. No, that's not it. What about this one? That's it. It's the oxygen mask.
You right?
Was oxygen leaking from a mask in the cockpit?
Oi! Come here.
Says here that if not stowed properly, it's going to leak.
Come here.
So the closest oxygen mask to channel
Come
3
here.
is this one. Right behind first officer's seat.
Egypt Air 804, flight 7370, squawk number 7624.
The implication of the discovery is immediately clear.
That's fuel for the fire.
In an oxygen-enriched environment, the potential for ignition goes up and the severity of the ensuing fire post-ignition goes up.
An oxygen leak can feed a fire, but it can't ignite one. Investigators wonder what could have started the fire.
I need reports from cases with in-flight fires.
Are there other cases where a similar fire brought a plane down?
One of the early things you do is, has the fleet seen this before or anything similar to it? Have there been flight deck fires? And there have.
forced the pilots to make a harrowing emergency landing. American investigators theorized that a lit cigarette in the lavatory was one of the possible causes.
Perhaps the pilots were smoking. Smoking regulations for pilots in Egypt? What are they?
Smoking has been banned on most airliners around the world for years.
Unbelievable.
Egypt Air did not allow smoking on board, except in the cockpit.
It was allowed in 2016 to smoke in the Egypt Air's cockpit with the authorization of the captain.
With no ban on smoking for pilots at Egypt Air in 2016, French judicial investigators put forth a theory that focuses on the pilots of Flight 804.
Listen to this. The ashtrays were replaced before the accident.
The Egyptian Pilots Association insists that the pilots were not smokers.
According to the Egyptian authorities and the Egyptian media, the pilots weren't smokers. But according to other pilots that I interviewed, they were smokers.
Studying maintenance reports for the aircraft, investigators make an important discovery.
It's not just the ashtrays that were changed. They replaced the Echo's oxygen mask. And it looks like it was left in emergency mode. This is just what we need.
The first officer's oxygen mask was changed 3 days before the accident. According to the experts, the oxygen mask was set improperly on an emergency mode.
When an oxygen mask is left in emergency mode, it feeds oxygen at a higher pressure, releasing more oxygen than when it's in normal mode.
I can see where it could, depending on the position, initiate flow out of the hose into the mask and then into the environment.
Aren't the pilots supposed to check the oxygen mask at the start of each day?
Pilots are supposed to check that setting unless someone else on the first flight of that day has already done that. But that doesn't mean that you can do that again.
French judicial investigators speculate that the leaking oxygen saturated the cockpit air, increasing the potential for a sudden fire.
The French report concluded that the aircraft went down because there was something, most probably a cigarette, that with the contribution of the oxygen leaking from the first officer's mask, started a fire that wasn't stopped or couldn't be stopped.
Léo Berberi breaks the story that the French judicial inquiry has a very different theory from either the Egyptian government or France's Bureau of Investigation and Analysis for Civil Aviation Safety. It's a theory questioned by many experts.
Just imagining that this mask is filling the cockpit with a high percentage of oxygen is ridiculous, because the feed, even when it's at full blast, is intended to be enough feed to the pilot's face like this in the cockpit. That would have been minimum.
This works as a backup. To me, frankly, this is a bit of a stretch.
Officially, the ignition source for the onboard fire remains an open question. Families of those lost in the tragedy still have no firm answers. The Egyptians maintain that this was an act of terrorism. 2 alternate explanations remain on the table: the cigarette theory and the faulty wiring theory. What caused Flight 804 to crash remains a mystery. But one fact is clear: whatever happened could happen again.
It's absolutely vital that we find out what caused the fire on this airplane.
Aviation does not do well with mysteries. We never have.
Landing, where's it coming from? I don't know. I'm taking us down.
The Egyptian government has since banned smoking in the cockpit, As of 2022, there still isn't an official report.
I think we know that there's a lot more information that has been gathered about Flight 804 than has been released.
An incomplete investigation leaves behind an incomplete story. Multiple unanswered questions tarnish the case.
What's that?
But there's agreement that the crisis began suddenly, escalated rapidly, and forced the pilots to act fast. While the plane is cruising at 37,000 feet, first signs of a crisis become apparent.
Things have started going wrong.
There's a fire!
You need to get the airplane on the ground now. Too many things are failing. Too many warnings are coming up.
Running! Where's it coming from? I don't know.
The warnings would have spurred the pilots into action, but the situation worsened.
It's getting increasingly smoky. They're going to be increasingly having trouble with breathing.
Blower override. Cabin fans off.
The pilots would have followed the procedures for smoke in the cockpit in an attempt to isolate the source of the smoke.
Electrical bus tie auto. Try to start DBU.
The electrical emergency configuration would have shut down most of the aircraft systems, leaving the pilots with only some basic controls to bring the plane down.
This is what you do if there's a fire. It has been a proven safeguard in airliners for quite a long time.
It seems the fire grew.
I'm checking us down.
And spread into the passenger cabin.
There is a fire extinguisher in the flight deck. So, where's the fire? What's the intensity of the fire? Where's it progressing?
Every second the fire burns, the more damage the plane sustains.
The situation in the flight deck would be chaos because it's becoming increasingly difficult for the pilots to know what they are fighting against.
I can't see.
The cockpit of Flight 804 was likely engulfed in flames as the pilots tried to save their plane. How exactly the pilots tried to fight back the fire is another one of Flight 804's unsolved mysteries.
If nobody knows about what went wrong in a particular accident, how can they change their own programs? How can they devise their aircraft better?
If mistakes were made by Egypt Air or by Airbus, they remain unpublicized. Airbus has not made any changes to the design of the A320 as a result of this accident.
It's
It was just one afternoon in April. I didn't wake up that day thinking this would be the last.
This will be a day where there's going to be so many tornado warnings.
It's something like I'd never seen before.
We watched this monster form before our very eyes.
These were killer tornadoes on the ground.
And I thought, it's coming for us. It's coming for us.
Stay sheltered. Get underground. These things were monstrous, supercell storms.
He was holding her hand, and she just went up and away from him.
It's the deadliest tornado outbreak for 75 years. 321 people are killed, and thousands are made homeless. Now, eyewitness accounts, survivors' footage, and expert scientific analysis reveal the terrible events of the super tornado outbreak. Just over 50 miles north of Birmingham, Alabama, is the small town of Cullman, and its population of 15,000.
I'm Kitty Spears, the owner of the Busy Bee Cafe. I've been in business for myself here since 1989. The Busy Bee Cafe is run by family. All my family members work here. We're Coleman's oldest restaurant, and we're the backbone of this town.
100 miles south of Cullman is Tuscaloosa, home to more than 38,000 students from the University of Alabama.
My name's Tori Sheehan. In 2011, I was a student at the University of Alabama, and I was also an intern at WVUA, the local station in Tuscaloosa. So I lived in the eastern part of Tuscaloosa in Alberta. It was a 2-story apartment complex, made up mostly of students, but there were also people who weren't students at the university living there. It was my own little place. I mean, it was like a shoebox, basically, but it was mine, and I loved it.
My name is James Spann. My title is Chief Meteorologist for WBMA TV in Birmingham. Well, I'm an old-timer. I've been here a long time. Growing up in rural South Alabama, the storms of a summer afternoon were unbelievably awesome. Where for everybody else, they were a nuisance, but for me, they were fascinating. But we have 2 tornado alleys. One is the traditional tornado alley. This is the southern Great Plain, states like Oklahoma and Kansas. But we have a secondary area in the southeast United States, Alabama, Mississippi, Tennessee, Arkansas, North Louisiana, North Georgia. And that has been dubbed as Dixie Alley. And it's Dixie Alley, with its denser populations and higher concentration of mobile homes, that has the deadliest tornadoes each year. We have a lot of our population away from cities that live in manufactured housing. And simply by nature of the beast, air can get under them and go above them, and they can go airborne. For those that live in it, they have to be thinking about this way, way, way before a tornado. In early April 2011, unusually warm moist air from the Gulf of Mexico is moving north, while cold fronts head southeast from the Midwest and Plains states. The two collide and are churned further by howling winds in the jet stream. It's a turbulent breeding ground for supercells, some of the most dangerous storms on Earth. They're capable of spawning the most violent of tornadoes. With the most powerful tornadoes being up to a mile wide, with spiraling winds of up to 250 miles an hour, alarm bells are ringing in the Deep South.
We don't like to cry wolf, but in the days leading up to April 27th, we started seeing strong thunderstorms that actually developed into supercell thunderstorms. Supercells are long-lived, and statistically, they're the type of storms that produce not just tornadoes, but typically the bigger tornadoes, those more violent tornadoes.
A supercell forms when conflicting winds cause horizontal spin in the lower atmosphere. Warm updrafts then force it vertically to form a mesocyclone. The spinning high
in more warm air, driving the rotation faster. Rapidly descending air at the rear of the storm can then drag the mesocyclone towards the ground. If it's a tornado is born.
Once we got within about 5 days, it became obvious that April 27th could be a problematic type day. We didn't know where tornadoes would touch down, how many tornadoes we were going to have, exactly what state maybe would take the brunt of this, but somebody in the Deep South was going to have a really bad day. Severe weather a possibility by midweek. Chance of supercell storms Wednesday afternoon.
In the early hours of Wednesday, the 27th of April, the predicted storm system hits James Spann's home state of Alabama.
Walking in here, I knew I had to get my microphone strapped on and get ready to go on television immediately. It was just a sense of urgency and a sense of, I hope we're not in over our heads. These storms are very serious, so let's kind of reset here. It's 5:40. A lot of you are just waking up now to the sirens going off.
There were terrible thunderstorms that morning, even before the sun was up. And I remember just laying down and hearing, like right when you're about to wake up, but you're still not fully awake, and hearing the thunder.
During the morning hours, 7 states hit by a massive storm system. 92 tornadoes touched down, stretching from Louisiana all the way north to Ohio.
That morning, April 27th, we were extremely busy because there were storms earlier that morning in the town next to us, and everybody was coming to Coleman because they had no power and everything.
By 9 a.m., the weather system across Mississippi and Alabama completely transforms.
Looks like we might see several hours of sunshine this morning, and that in turn could lead to some really rough weather later today. We saw the sun break out, thinking, oh goodness, that's the last thing you want. That's really going to heat the air up and make the air buoyant and set the stage for some horrible storms later in the day.
This is the time where you go to a safe place now, as low as you can go underground if you can get there before the homes and the cars.
Ignoring the warnings, storm chaser Reed Timmer decides to head in the direction of one of the supercell storms, near the town of Philadelphia, Mississippi.
By afternoon, our target storm developed to the east of Jackson, Mississippi, and right when that storm developed, it assumed textbook supercell characteristics. And our plan was to find an open meadow that was directly in the path of that storm. Suddenly, the forest opened up, had a clear view to the southwest. Then bang! Guys, this is probably one of the strongest tornadoes I've ever seen.
As the 2011 tornado super outbreak begins to intensify, a massive twister has just touched down in Philadelphia, Mississippi.
Oh my God, look at that horizontal vortices on the left side. Horizontal vortices feeding into it.
Directly in its path is storm chaser Reed Timmer.
It was approaching rapidly, and we saw the massive wedge. We knew it was powerful at that point. Very large tornado, very compact supercell structure as well. You could see the whole entire updraft and the rain shaft next to it. Rapid upward motion on the left side, horizontal vortices feeding into it, and you knew that we were dealing with a different monster. I was freaking out trying to let them know that there was a dangerous tornado heading to their location.
As it races along the ground, the
narrow thing, maybe 100 meters across. Very strong winds right off the top, but you'll notice as time goes on, it gets wider. Eventually, this thing gets wrapped in rain, but as it gets widened, you start to see embedded within this tornado are what you might think of as mini tornadoes. They're called suction vortices. And the multiple vortices are all kind of rotating about the center of a tornado. They each contain a center of low pressure and winds spiraling around them. So you have a combination of horizontal winds that are able to be so strong that you can just lift the top of a piece of pavement off and it's going to be pulled away, peeled away. Then you have a suction vortex that comes in and literally draws mass upwards from the ground because the updraft is so strong.
By 2 p.m., the sky is full of potentially deadly supercells, ranging across Dixie Alley and beyond.
This is probably the most serious event, quite frankly, going back maybe over the 32 years I've been here. There are multiple storms. All of these are life-threatening.
It was going to be one of those days where if people didn't take cover, they were going to die.
With lives at stake, Matt Larpon is in just his third week in a new job as meteorologist at WTEA in Tupelo, Mississippi.
To be a new person forecasting here, I doubted what I was looking at. Now I'm looking at this, and I'm like, I mean, this is as extreme as it can get. It's something like I'd never seen before. How do I believe that I can convince them to trust me that this kid knows what he's talking about? This could be a tornado developing. It has not been reported as a tornado on the ground. Almost every storm on the radar looked like it could be producing a tornado. It was the most overwhelmed I have ever felt.
On radar, many of the supercell storms are showing the ominous hallmark of a potentially developing tornado, a hook echo.
As we go from 2 p.m. to about 2:30, this is a half an hour here. Now look how we have clearly 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of these supercellular thunderstorms, and even the storms that haven't really developed have a little hook echo. Everything has a hook echo. Every single one of them.
A hook echo is caused by precipitation and rapidly descending cold air at the rear of the storm as it wraps around the supercell's mesocyclone. It's this descending air that can drag the mesocyclone to the ground. And it's a sure sign that a tornado may be about to form. But on April the 27th, 2011, the deadly weather system is set to break almost all known records.
What was so different about this was we had so much of the ingredients over such a large area that it wasn't that we were going to produce one, that we produce multiple long track tornadoes that aren't just down for a minute and done, but down for half an hour, an hour.
Within minutes of the massive Philadelphia tornado, another supercell is showing a hook echo as it fast approaches the town of Cullman, Alabama.
Gosh, goodness gracious. Let's take a look at those cloud bases. Are you kidding me?
I cannot believe we can see that far away. We watched a rapidly, and I mean rapidly developing thunderstorm that went from a shower to a supercell within literally 20, 25 minutes.
It's down.
The tornado has formed.
Just making a beeline right toward downtown Cullman. Based on what we're seeing on the Skycam, that tornado down at the base could be 1/2 mile wide. Goodness gracious. Everybody in downtown Cullman should be in a safe place, hunkered down right now.
And Kitty Spears, owner of Cullman's Busy Bee Cafe, has decided to stay at work.
It's 3 o'clock, it's closing time, and I come to the cash register to get the money. And I just had pushed the button to open the cash register, and all of a sudden, my ears started hurting, and I was doing this number, and I just happened to look up, and I could see coming over the bridge a cloud on the tornado.
This is coming right through the middle of downtown Coleman. You can see the debris swirling underneath this thing. This is a tornado emergency for the city of Coleman. Goodness gracious.
We knew this was bad, and I had great fear that we would have loss of life.
Kitty Spears' son Kyle and his father race towards downtown Coleman, and Kyle films the aftermath. As they reach the Busy Bee Cafe, they make a shocking discovery.
It's just a whole pile of rubble. When we came around the corner, we see that the business was destroyed. There was nothing there. We just drove right up as fast as we could, just parked in the middle of the road, and I ran out screaming for my mom. The whole Busy Bee was destroyed. My dad, he was running around frantically too, looking for my mother. This is the whole downtown area. He was running around lifting things up. We were both just frantic. I was yelling. He was flipping everything over to see if he could find her in the rubble. It was just absolutely obliterated. Curtains tore up.
It's not just the Busy Bee Cafe that's gone. Much of downtown Coleman has been destroyed. With fewer than 2% of tornadoes rating at EF4 or higher, Coleman is desperately unlucky to be hit by one. Whole buildings have been leveled, and cars lifted off the ground by rotational winds of 175 miles an hour.
There's the Eastside Baptist Church right there.
6 people have died.
So that power line ran right there.
Kitty Spears is one of the lucky ones.
Some people came running up, and they told us that my mom had been found in the rubble. She was in really bad pain, beat up, bloody, bruised. I was relieved that she was still alive, because I thought this was going to be the day that my mom was leaving me. The roof's gone, and it just sucked the whole place out. The front, back, no nothing.
I jumped under the counter as far as I could get, and next thing I know, the whole building exploded. I couldn't move. I was just trapped. I could feel everything just falling on top of me, pounding me, hitting me. I couldn't move. I just could not move from the weight of everything on top of me. And I didn't realize I was even hurt until they started digging me out, and when I just started screaming in excruciating pain because I tattered my pelvis. The Wizard of Oz used to be one of my favorite movies when I was a child. Then I got to live it.
Clark County.
At the same time as the Coleman tornado, James Spann is tracking another powerful supercell storm that is showing a clear hook echo.
So this lead storm is approaching Hackleburg.
The longest, the most deadly tornado of the super outbreak is about to strike.
Everybody in Hackleburg, be in a safe place now.
Mid-afternoon on the 27th of April, 2011, and a powerful supercell storm is bearing down on the town of Hackleburg, Alabama.
I was just pleading with the viewers, you've got to listen, you've got to pay attention, you've got to get shelter. You want to be in an interior part without lowest floor, take blankets, pillows with you if you can, otherwise get underneath something sturdy. If you're not in a reinforced shelter, if you're not in a well-built structure, and a tornado with 210 miles per wind is coming towards you, if you're in a mobile home, you will die.
So this lead storm is approaching Hackleburg. Everybody in Hackleburg, be in a safe place now.
Then meteorologists' worst fears are realized. The telltale sign of a tornado touching down, known as a debris signature, forms on radar. It confirms the
circle of where the tornado is, and all of the debris that's being lifted off the ground is reflecting back the energy to the radar site. And so that deepest purple, that's a bunch of trees, that's a bunch of houses and other things that are all just spinning around at more than 200 miles per hour.
The tornado rips through Hackleburg, and it shows no sign of stopping as it bears down on the neighboring town of Phil Campbell and its population of just over 1,000 people. Local police officer Gary Wayne Mays grabs a camera and begins filming the approaching tornado.
When I came out, I got here and I noticed the clouds were looking real black back that way, and kind of reminded you of watching The Wizard of Oz. You know, you're watching it and you're seeing this big swirling cloud up there.
Phil Campbell 3 to 911. I got rotation coming through Phil Campbell right now.
You saw bright white on this side and bright white on this side, and it was just black. It was just intense wind. You could hear the debris getting torn off the building right in front of you.
They have a wind velocity of 200 miles per hour or greater. You can't really imagine that. Even well-engineered homes were totally taken off their foundations.
With just 0.1% of tornadoes traveling more than 100 miles, this long-track tornado stays on the ground for more than 2 hours, covering a distance of 130 miles, as it rips through a region with a high concentration of mobile homes. It's the second EF5 to hit Dixie Alley within 60 minutes.
Those tornadoes are down for 5, 10, 15 minutes. They're gone. Those tornadoes are EF0s and EF1s. This was an EF5. EF5s are excessively rare. They had two of them side by side in one day. It was simply remarkable.
You don't expect to come to work that day and have 26 people die on your shift. We found a young child that had been killed. I didn't find him, but I was there just shortly after one of the fire department gentlemen found him, and it's bad when it's an adult, but it's a little worse feeling when it's a child.
As the tornado continues to move northeast, it becomes the deadliest for half a century, as 72 people lose their lives. At the same time, a third EF5 is about to land near the town of Smithville, Mississippi. With a wave of potentially deadly supercell storms moving across the southern United States, James Spann is desperately trying to warn viewers to take shelter.
A lot of the severe weather parameters are just off the charts. Any of these storms could erupt and go severe in a heartbeat.
But there's a limit to meteorologists' ability to precisely forecast a tornado.
It is the most frustrating thing. We can see this violent rotation on radar, but we don't know if it's aloft or on the ground. We have no idea. To really, for sure, know if there's a tornado down, we need somebody looking in.
And with only around 20% of supercells forming into tornadoes, this leads to another problem.
sometimes get a little jaded from that.
But with so many massive supercells still raging, meteorologists of national weather offices across the region are taking no chances.
We were really, really pushing it hard with this event due to all the ingredients coming together for violent killer tornadoes. At that point, it's a matter of, do people have a safe place to go, and are they going to get to it?
After a day of intermittent sirens, retired truck driver Paul Estes and his family are at their local diner in Smithville, Mississippi, trying to go about their lives as normal.
Storm sirens were going off and on through the day, but we had gotten to a point where we just didn't. We got kind of complacent. So there goes the siren again.
But just after 3:30 p.m., everything changes.
Well, the next thing I knew, one of the employees said, "There's a tornado on the way. Shut the gas off. Y'all get the cooler." So I jumped in the cooler and pulled the cooler door shut. This is what we hid in to get away from the tornado and get into some safety. My daughters were screaming, and I could hear my wife praying, and I grabbed the door. That was my job, was to hold that door shut.
Just after 3:40 p.m., the third EF5 in just over 60 minutes touches down. With rotational speed in excess of 200 miles per hour, it's heading directly towards the town of Smithville. It's so powerful that it lifts a vehicle 130 feet into the air and sends it smashing into the town's water tower.
I've never seen a debris signature that was that compact. Within the next scan, Smithville's been hit, and that storm is already through Smithville. And then the reports start coming in from the field. And it's just, you're shell-shocked. It's absolute, utter devastation.
As the storm subsides, it's clear much of central Smithville has suffered catastrophic damage. But Paul Estes and his family have clung to life inside the diner.
When we come out of the cooler, everything was devastated. Everything was leveled. Wood, twisted metal, all the way across to my parents' home.
Paul's parents' house has been completely destroyed.
But when I got here, well, it just looked like somebody had shoved it to one side and just broke it into splinters. It was devastating. I don't know that I ever saw anything like that before. You know, I've seen pictures on TV of wars and stuff, but I've never seen anything just destroyed like that. That got me scared because I knew Mom and Dad was in the house. And as I got here, my dad was still alive. He was blown over to the driveway. He had been covered up with a bunch of debris. But I couldn't find my mama. He said he was holding her hand, and she just went up and away from him. So I couldn't hold on to her. I just stood there and cried. I mean, I had a good idea she was gone. Mama was dead. But I just stood there and cried.
In just over 60 minutes, there have now been 3 deadly EF5s across Alabama and Mississippi.
You have 3 within an hour. Within the geographic distance we're talking about here is just It's unbelievable. It's unfathomable.
Just when it seems things can't get any worse, just 100 miles from Smithfield, another tornado touches down. And this one is heading straight for one of the most heavily populated towns in Alabama.
This is a large, violent tornado coming up on downtown Tuscaloosa. Be in a safe place right now.
A mile-wide multiple vortex tornado is on track to hit the densely populated city of Tuscaloosa.
And that is a huge tornado that is moving right up on downtown Tuscaloosa. This is an extremely violent situation. Don't take any chances with this. This is as violent a situation as you'll ever see. I want everybody in the city limits of Tuscaloosa to stay sheltered.
All right. Well, that's it for tonight. Thanks for joining me or watching later on. Hope you enjoyed it. It is almost completed. Look at that. Look at that.
I mean, we were all working on trying to answer phones and trying to keep the latest update of where was this thing. And I just remember hearing someone say, "Oh my God, there it is."
At each level, I'm going to design a different thing, from farms, etc. All right. Well, thanks for joining me. I'll catch you next time. Bye for now.